Welcome! Today I'm going to run through Jammin Salmon Junction, a new map in Salmon Run that was released in June 2023. This advice is quite generalist and doesn't cover high-end gameplay or overfishing. It's some advice from a freelance addict that hopefully makes you appreciate this map a little more and learn how to use it to your advantage. I've grown to really love and enjoy playing this map. When it was first released, it didn't immediately win me over as I thought it was quite plain and quite meh. But over time I've come to view it as one of the best maps in the game that allows you to get crazy high scores whilst also being quite forgiving with certain comps. Number 1. Normal Tide. JSJ, in my opinion, has one of the easiest normal tides in the game for a couple of reasons. The first is that apart from a couple of graded areas, the majority of the map is paintable, and this means it's very easy to move around. Secondly, you have 2 clear ramps either side of the basket that the majority of your spawns will come through, and the elevated platforms at basket means you're able to have a clear view on almost everything. Thirdly, I think it's also helpful that whilst this map does feel long, it doesn't feel too big or too wide. What I mean by this is that you can reach areas quickly, jump from different sides with ease and scale walls to get around quickly. The layout of this map allows you to create an environment where you can control the spawns incoming with relative ease whilst also being able to see what statics are spawning in. Your vantage point from the basket allows you to see almost all static spawns with ease. The only exception really are the 2 sneaky corners that big shots can hide in. For all those reasons, I find JSJ a lot less punishing than other maps during normal tide, such as Bay, Grounds and even Gone Fishing Hydroplant. I find the map gets less crowded overall, and even stuff like static spawns aren't too difficult to control. The majority of specials can deal with statics easily on this map due to the unobstructed view. Specials like Inkjet, Crab, Whale and Triple Ink Strike are favourable here, but even Reef, Splashdown, Booyah and Kraken can take care of statics with good results. The biggest threats here are multiple stingers and flyfish on different sides of the map. Do your best to deal with this problem ASAP, even if it means just taking care of one side only. The only other major issue that comes with this map is being too far away from basket for too long and stalling bosses or eggs in a corner of the map. Be mindful of the time left and whether quota needs your urgent attention. Sometimes you'll need to abandon the bosses to race back to basket if you've been away for too long. You can offset this by throwing more eggs towards the basket earlier in the wave if you get a feeling you might need to stay down at the shore. You can throw eggs directly into the basket from the small platform in the middle, by the way. Just make sure it's safe to do so. Oh, and the snatches on normal tide can prove very helpful. This is another reason why this map feels easier sometimes. The majority of snatcher paths can benefit you, so monitor where they're coming from and take note whether you need to spend time running far eggs or if you can let the snatcher do the hard work for you. Number 2. Low tide. Low tide is a much smaller and more condensed version of normal tide. It's easier in a way as there are less platforms and the terrain is quite flat, so you're able to see everything spawning. There's also only 2 spawn points, meaning that you won't get blindsided by stray enemies, but be mindful of overstaying your welcome by a big shot cannon as things can overwhelm you fast. The main problem boss I found on low tide are slamming lids, as they can block you reaching statics behind them. I'd advise you to be aggressive with lids and get rid of them swiftly to give yourself more opportunities to use long-range weapons or specials. Down the middle is a gap between the 2 sides separated by water. You can easily jump between both sides here. The only grate on the map is at the basket above some water, so just be sure not to kraken or roll through it, I guess. Other than that, low tide shouldn't cause you many problems, and specials like Booyah, Ink Strike, Reef, Wavebreaker and Splashdown are excellent at clearing areas quickly. In addition, you can always back off up the slopes behind basket if you need some breathing space. Number 3. High tide. High tide is the gift that keeps giving in my opinion. I find it exceptionally rewarding when you're able to keep up the pace with the spawns and use specials early to prevent overwhelming situations. You can see where everything is spawning from, and as there are only 2 spawn points, you can keep track of the timings and know when the next spawns are coming in. All specials have use here, but area clearing specials like Booyah and Kraken and Splashdown can be amazing at clearing the basket area quickly and allowing eggs to be run. The main issues I see with high tide is a reluctance to use specials until it's too late and/or a lack of speed with killing enemies. I promise you that you have almost zero need to lure on high tide. Everything is already here, and your biggest issue should be staying alive rather than wanting a steelhead to move an inch closer. Bosses like steel eels and fish sticks are bosses which need to go immediately due to the small space you have, and I'd exercise extreme caution to let any of them stay alive for any length of time at all. Because of the limited space at the basket, free of any spawn can become intense. Free scrappers or moors or floppers can take all your space and prevent you from staying on top of the incoming spawns. Do not focus on luring everything as close as you can. Take into account the paint and turf you have, weapons that you have, other bosses that are spawning, how many players are down. If you struggle with high tide on this map, it may be because you're not being aggressive enough. I promise that you'll have no issue getting eggs. The biggest issue you'll have is not being able to run eggs due to dying or not being able to reach the basket. Along with managing bosses, the lessers need to be controlled and slayed quickly too. Due to the small space and lack of elevated platforms, you will get overrun with lessers quickly if they're not dealt with. They can also be a reason why you may repeatedly die or not meet quota in time, so do your best to manage them. Wavebreaker is a top tier special for high tide on this map for that very reason. And lastly, do not be afraid to use your special if you need to clear the basket area. If you have a special that can free up space and destroy many enemies simultaneously, then use it. One of the ways I view Salmon Run is that it's a race against the clock. The 100 seconds to get the eggs, the different times that bosses spawn in and when the last boss spawns, the times of lesser spawns, the time it takes you to be resurrected after dying. Everything in Salmon Run can be measured in time. The best way to get ahead of the time and be in front is to use your specials. Use them if you think they'll give you an advantage in any timed metric, be it clearing bosses, lessers, reviving teammates, creating space and turf, or allowing you to run eggs. Number 4, night waves. The night waves on this map are all relatively straightforward. Goldie Seeking, Fog, Mudmouth and Mothership can be highly rewarding and easy to pass, especially if the snatchers are working in your favour. Tornado and Cohawk Charge are also relatively simple with no major deviations from other maps. The only thing I want to say is that on Tornado you can and should throw eggs directly into the basket from this platform in the middle, as this speeds up the process a lot. For grillers, you have a couple of ways to play. You can use the ground to the right of the basket to lure them when you're targeted and jump onto the raised platform to cause them to turn around and change direction. This makes them easier to stun and kill, and the eggs are right next to basket. The other option, which should only be done when you don't have the aggro, is to take a platform opposite to where the griller is being led. This is especially useful if you have a powerful or slow weapon that can easily stun grillers. The only issue is being mindful of small fry. On high tide, this can be a lot more tricky to pull off consistently due to the limited space, so don't be shy about using specials to assist with stunning and damaging the grillers if you feel like you're losing control. For glowflies or rush, standing by basket to the left is optimal. The raised platform gives you extra space and allows a bit more flexibility with movement should you need it. The enemies all flow from 2 directions that are easy to see, so whenever you don't have aggro, you should be keeping track of which side they're coming from and when it switches. If you have a weapon that is good at filtering chum, such as blasters or most shooters, consider taking a more aggressive position when you don't have the aggro so you can lessen the amount of chum coming towards the basket. This can be tough in high tide and things can break down quickly as there is limited space, so be liberal with specials if you need to be. During normal tide, if you're desperate and just need to stall, consider using this painted wall here for a short time, but don't stay too long here and don't do it if you haven't met quota. Goldies only spawn after 20 new chum have spawned. This means that if you stall and don't keep up an aggressive position, you won't reach quota. You should only stall if you have no other choice, and this is your only way to survive when your team are either all dead or trying to run eggs. I tried to condense this down as much as I could, but I know I've missed some stuff. A lot of this is just my opinion based on experience and freelance on this map, so your opinions may vary compared to mine. But at the very least, I hope it's helpful. Let me know what you think. I will see you soon.
Yep.